American half pound of 2 pure beef patties, lettuce, tomato.
Singles going steady.
This is Singles Going Steady, the podcast dedicated to exploring great singles with a particular eye to the punk, new wave, synth pop, and DIY eras of the last century. And my name is Steve McGowan.
And I'm Adrienne Madoc. We're in a band, The Beef People, and we released a single in 1986 on our own label, Zub Records. We're also record collectors and passionate especially about the expression of pop music perfection that is the single recording. I explained the mystery of what makes for a great single is what propelled us to begin this podcast. And this episode is number
071, Singles Going Steady, 071.
071. And we do have pop perfection today.
Absolutely.
We've got orchestral maneuvers in the dark.
Or OMD, for short.
And with a spectacular single, Souvenir.
Yes, from 1981, the first single from their Architecture and Morality record. OMD is a band basically led by two guys, Paul Humphreys and Andy McCluskey. They both play keyboards. They both sing. Andy's the primary singer. Andy also plays the bass guitar.
Yeah, and I think people might, in the image in their mind, might be Andy playing bass and Paul playing keys.
Right. And they were one of those first wave of British synth pop bands that kind of came up, like with Soft Cell and Human League and Gary Newman. They toured with Gary Newman. They're from Liverpool, from the Merseyside, of the Wirral area. And their music is just amazing. We've talked before about how much we really like synth pop.
Yeah.
And some of our own songs in the Beef People veer towards synth pop.
Right. Sort of having a keyboard in the band,
Yes.
I think it was sort of inevitable.
Who writes?
Having a synth, right?
Yeah.
But I think OMD is one of those groups that maybe has lost some cred because of their association with like John Hughes movies and teen movies. I mean, it's a great fortune for them that they landed on some of the biggest soundtracks of the 80s.
Right.
But, they were really interesting, revolutionary,
very cutting edge.
And this single I think shows sort of their roots. It's not just music that Molly Ringwald finds a heartbreak in and a cute boyfriend to.
It's before kind of that period of the band, right? Before they kind of made it stateside, as they say.
Right.
They were just doing their thing, and they were very advanced in the sampling area and doing a lot of things with the found sounds and creating things with all kinds of new keyboards.
Yeah, I think we'll play a little bit of Souvenir in a moment, but I think they're tape loops, actually.
Yeah, there may be.
Or at least, I think of a choir.
Yes, there's a lot of interesting choir sounds that don't sound like, kind of almost a Mellotron kind of thing.
Right.
But more
that
modern.
Impression, yeah.
So it's a very interesting band, and the songs are just really excellent.
Right.
So the A side, it's from the album Architecture and Morality, which is one of my favorites. Their third record. They had one called Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, and the second album was called Organization. Songs such as Electricity and Enola Gay, songs you probably heard if you know anything about synth pop. And this was the third record, which is a little more experimental. And also a little poppier too.
Right. Yeah,
Kind of
interesting how
working-
those things.
working the envelope in both directions, almost, right?
Right, and I think this song actually had great success for them
Yeah.
in the UK
Yeah,
and in Europe.
Very, very strong. So let's listen to it from 1981. It was on Din Disc Records in the UK. I think they were on Epic in the US. This one didn't get a lot of coverage in the US, but it's a great single, and it's called Souvenir, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark.
It's my direction, it's my proposal. It's so hard, it's leading me astray. My obsession, it's my creation. You'll understand, it's not important now. All I need is coordination. I can't imagine my destination, my intention, as my opinion, but no excuse. My feelings still remain. Feelings still remain.
Boy, that song, the song is sort of nostalgia on
Yes.
7 inches of vinyl.
It really
Right?
is.
It's what nostalgia sounds like. It's what longing sounds like. It's what, memory and yearning sounds like.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that they picked the name Souvenir, which is not an English word.
No, not at all.
And it was one of those things that, I've got enough of like rudimentary Latin and French that, I love looking at the etymology, which
Sure.
is kind of, all over the place for the word souvenir.
What did you get out of it?
Well, that there are sort of two meanings to it, or two sources. It's sort of like the venir, to which both can mean to come and to go,
Right,
and
right.
and I guess in the Latin it began as sub, meaning under,
Underneath.
right,
Mhm.
underneath, and then became su, that meaning under as well in the French. So this is like going beneath, going under, but then it comes to English and even in later French, meaning this is something that you take with you
Right.
to remember, right?
Right.
It's a token of
A trinket, a token.
but it's
whatever.
different than a memento
Right.
because it it sort of imbues in it more sense of something that you take to sort of dig under, I guess, to the memory, to the feeling.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And it's got all those things going on, sort of.
Yeah,
in
it has
the song,
that.
right?
It has that feeling of a souvenir.
Right.
Like it takes you to a place that you're remembering something that happened.
Some sort of primal
Yeah.
memory is being tickled. It's almost, I was thinking about it almost as being a mental tip of the tongue phenomenon. It's like it's making me long for something that I did not even know that
Right.
I was missing. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there for a little synth pop song, isn't
Yeah,
it?
to be, again, it's sort of deceptively simple, catchy as hell.
Oh,
but
yeah.
and I just remember having this 7-inch and playing it over and over and over because it's the way it makes you feel.
Yeah, it's just neat.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
It's very different from a lot of other music you listen to. It's not, doesn't make you want to jump up and down. It doesn't make you want to break things. It's kind of introspective, but catchy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the melancholy you can hum along to. What I mean?
Now, how about the cover on this? And the British single, it's got a very interesting cover. The sleeve has actually got a big die cut hole in it.
Right, and it's sort of like maroon, dark burgundy, dark maroon, plain a sleeve with this die cut hole.
Yeah.
And there's a photograph on
On the record.
on the record itself,
full
on the
color
label.
photograph, yeah.
Full color photograph, a little street scene,
Somewhere in
and
Germany.
yeah, but
Little cars driving around and
but it's nostalgic. And
Yes.
it's like, oh,
This is-
it's like a snapshot, right?
Yeah.
Like a travel snap, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember, or you're trying to remember. It's like,
Right.
oh yeah,
it's almost like a little postcard.
exactly,
Yeah.
like a souvenir
Yes.
that one would.
And we
have
think
of travel.
Peter Saville did the design of
Right,
this.
I know he was involved in
the
a lot
album.
Of, yeah, right.
And it kind of looks like something he would do.
Right, and that idea of that slightly hidden, like you want to go into the sleeve. What else is
Right,
there?
right. It brings you in. Yes.
Right.
And Peter Saville, of course, we talked about him in our Joy Division and New Order podcast.
active.
He's the guy from Manchester who's responsible for all their amazing graphics. And the graphics on this single and, of course, on Architecture and Morality are just off the charts.
Yeah.
Really, really good stuff.
It's a case of the design, ethos, and the sounds
Yeah.
melding into sort of one impression.
Beautifully.
That Kunstwerk.
Oh, no. Here we go again.
Somebody took an art history class.
Souvenir is a song sung by Paul Humphreys, who's kind of not the main singer in the band in OMD. It's usually Andy. And this is one of the few singles, I think, that Paul sang.
Right.
And it's one of the best ones they've done. And it was the first single from the
From the Architecture and Morality.
right. And there is a great B-side. There's 3 songs on the single, but the one we're going to play is called Motion and Heart. And this has got Andy singing on it.
Yeah.
And it's also a very catchy little tune, almost in a music hall synth way.
Right.
Let's listen to it, and then we'll talk about it a little bit, okay? OMD from the Souvenir single. It's called Motion and Heart, 1981.
Everything is as each time we tried. We failed us before, from laissez-faire to the knock on the door. But everything is as it should be when you give your heart to me. From mercy and heart to heart and more. From mercy and heart to heart and more.
So that was Motion and Heart, and like I said, it's kind of got that, a little bit of a down the pub music hall with synths sort of
Right.
thing going on. Do 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 do.
Right. It's,
know.
it drills itself into your
It's
mind.
kind of you can hear Paul McCartney plunking away on a tune like that.
Yeah, so somebody will sit down and the pub's got a piano and kind of crank that one
I was
out.
just sitting there plunking.
It's interesting with synth pop that you get such different takes.
Right.
That I don't think you mistake OMD for another synth group.
Right. They don't sound like Kraftwerk,
Right. Or
or Soft Cell.
exactly.
Right. Or even the Human League. They've got their own thing going on. They have a lighter touch, a little bit more of a pop aesthetic.
Without being pandering.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's not super dramatic either. It can be a little bit when they get those choruses sounds in there, But not the singing is not like Mark in Soft Cell.
Right, right.
It's not diva like.
Yeah, this is more plaintive.
Right.
Plain and plaintive.
So it's a great little song, a great little single. Again, I would encourage you to check out some of these earlier OMD records if you just know them from what Adrian was saying from the John Hughes films and the first four records. I kind of tuned them out after about the fifth record. I wasn't paying as much attention. I had Junk Culture and I had Dazzle Ships. And that was the first five, and then kind of lost a little bit, even though they've continued to.
Yeah.
They broke up for a while. They've continued to make good records.
And we saw them recently.
Yes,
you
and so-
can see the review at the
Yes.
live show we
Right.
saw.
We'll link to that, and they really were an amazingly good live
yeah,
band.
yeah.
It was a real treat to get to see them. We saw them with the B-52s and Berlin.
Yeah, and Berlin was kind of a nice surprise
yeah,
as
they
well.
were too. But OMD kind of stole the show.
Right.
They were all over it, and they have so many good songs. And Andy was just a dervish on stage.
Yeah.
Running around, dancing, making a fool of himself, playing the bass. You wouldn't think, you think two guys behind synthesizers, but it wasn't really like that at all.
No,
It
it's
was-
very
it was a show.
personable. Yeah.
And he was very connected with the audience very well. And the visuals were great. It was a show I was very glad that we went to see.
Yes.
Because they've always been one of my favorite bands.
So OMD's still touring. So if you
Yes.
have a chance to see them, take advantage.
Please do. They're still touring all over the place. I read somewhere that they've sold like 40 million records.
Wow. So that's the
Yeah.
power of those John Hughes soundtracks,
yeah,
right?
and the European market too.
Right, that's true.
I think one of the songs, I don't think it was Souvenir, I think it might have been Joan of Arc, was the number one single in Germany in like 1982.
Wow.
So, they've definitely got something going on.
Yeah. They definitely have their finger on a pulse that you didn't realize you
Right.
needed to have your pulse taken, and they go right for it.
Exactly. So OMD, Souvenir. Can you hear anybody covering this one?
I was thinking, because our rules are
Right.
like living dead, fictional,
Yes.
or even imaginary, or mythological. But I was thinking of Pianosaurus. There was a group that played children's instruments.
Okay.
And I was, you've got that sort of innocence
Yes.
and longing. I could almost hear it on a toy piano.
Yes, I can hear that. Yeah.
Right, so it doesn't need to be Pianosaurus. Maybe, the other thing is sometimes you've got the hip music teacher that has the grade school students perform, something from their college days.
Right. Yeah.
Right, so, this is something, maybe you can get a hip grade school choir director to get kids singing this and maybe
To do
accompanying
Souvenir.
it with triangles or something.
Right. Recorders.
That sort of grade school
Or
instrumentation.
whatever you have lying around.
Yeah, and because there's so much power of sort of subconscious memory, or, sort of grasping for a memory.
Yes.
And I think the innocent voices, the seemingly innocent voices of kids, I think that could lend a lot to
Yes.
it.
That's great. I could definitely hear that toy piano clinking along on the Souvenir. The people I'd like to hear do Souvenir, it's kind of obvious it would be a little bit bleaker sounding version, but I'd like to hear New Order.
Oh,
give it their treatment. I think that would be good.
It becomes a kind of a bad memory,
Right,
a repressed
exactly.
memory.
right. A Blue Monday type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think they would probably do a pretty good job with it. So that's what we think about that. How about a recommendation this week?
I think my recommendation you might jump on as well,
I'm
which
sure.
would be Taika Waititi's war satire.
Yes.
Jojo Rabbit,
Amazing
which
film.
just we've got a review
Yes,
up on
we'll link on
the
that too.
site that we'll link to.
But that is a movie that you really have to see.
It's a real tightrope walk, is how I described it in the review. I don't know how much I want to say about it, because anything you say about it doesn't do it justice.
It sounds like something you wouldn't want to see. And,
right. But sort of go in on blind faith,
Yes.
and I think you'll appreciate it. It's a great movie.
He's a great filmmaker. He
Yes.
really is. He really did a good job with this one. And
Yeah.
I concur with your recommendation on that one. The other thing I would recommend is OMD have just recently put out a singles box set. It's called it's a collection. It's not really a box set. I think it's a double. It's called Souvenir, the singles from the beginning till now, and it has this song on it. It has the 2 B-sides. They're a great singles band. Almost every single they've released has been worthy of listening to.
Right. So
And-
it's a collection in some form of packaging.
Yes, exactly. And you could do a lot worse than getting a collection of OMD singles if you don't have any of their records, or if you do, just to hear the singles. It's they are a great band. We really like them. We're glad they're still playing.
Yeah.
And this is one of their better singles.
Oh boy, I just feel melancholy and longing right now.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why.
Yes.
It's such a powerful single.
They do that. They do that
Yeah,
to you.
yeah.
And that's what good art and good music is all about, right?
Yeah, they push those buttons that you didn't know needed pushing.
Exactly. So that's it for this week. Singles Going Steady 071. Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, synth pop from England. And their wonderful single Souvenir. We also heard the song Motion and Heart. And we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, my feelings still remain.
Yes. Bye now.
To learn more about the artists and recordings we just talked about, visit our website at zubrecords.com and click on the Singles Going Steady icon.
You'll also find links to the persons, places, and things we recommend, and much more.
You can find episodes of Singles Going Steady on our website or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Singles Going Steady is brought to you by the power and majesty of Zub Records.
Zub Records, smart sounds for sharp people.